Hi everybody, welcome to Nazo Circus. It's your girl Chinazo, and today my episode today, I have my good friend, big sister, fellow family lawyer, Jenny Okafor. Jenny, you want to say hi?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having us again.
So Jenny, today's topic is to beat or not to beat. That is the question, right? And I know it sounds very funny, but it's a very serious topic.
Yes.
And so, obviously, this topic is tailored to, I would say the Nigerian community, Black community. But we can narrow it down to Nigerian community. I don't know what other cultures do, but we know what we do in our culture. And so, is this issue about our children and how we discipline our children? And obviously, I grew up back home, and I know you grew up back home.
Yeah.
And beating
was
when you were misbehaving, you just need to expect some type of beating, right? And we've come here, and obviously the law is different here. And why I'm discussing this topic, I've mentioned it a few times before, but I'm very passionate about this topic because I'm finding more and more Nigerian children are going into the foster care system. With other cultures, there are different reasons. Maybe drug addiction, alcohol dependency, sexual abuse. But with us, it's physical chastisement, it's beating. Yeah. And therefore, it's really important that we talk about this today. And that's why we're doing this episode. Yeah. So what is your take on this beating in the UK?
Yeah. I mean, for a starter, I will say, do in Rome as the Romans do.
Precisely.
In Nigeria, in Africa, it worked for us. They beat us. And some people still, believe that they would not have turned out to be who they are today if they were not beating. And for me, I'm one person. I hate violence. You can't even put wag a finger in my face. I'll be so scared. I don't like people hitting anybody. So I think that it is something we need to start looking at. It worked for our parents because of our environment, but it's not going to work here. These people have said, you are in a new jurisdiction. This is how we live. We don't beat our children. And this beating has its, various consequences. Because the attitude, the belief is that a child who is exposed to domestic violence at home, either they are beaten or they watch their parents beat others, they begin to form the idea that it's okay. Yeah. And they will beat other people. They will attack other people. Wherever they are, if there's no violence, they don't see that it is real. So I think that it is a very important topic. People must learn to abide by the rules. And when you say beating, some people just say, I just touched him, I just pushed him. He just touched him and pushed him.
I just pulled his ear.
Because in our own days, it was fine.
They will twist your ear or your mouth.
My grandmother used to call me cheek and table, which means that, I had ears, but I wasn't hearing for fancy. Yeah. So whenever I ran home doing something, she would twist my ears, or sometimes she would twist my mouth.
This is your sharp mouth. Yeah. But I think when you say that it worked for our parents, also, in those days, we didn't have many. I don't think our parents had many tools or many things that they could use to discipline us apart from this beating, right? But now, things have changed.
Yes.
I have a child, she's glued to her phone. Like, what better way of sending a message to a child than to seize that phone for, as punishment? So there's so many things. They have games. Children have so many things now that some children like sleepovers, you can stop some, there's so many things. Growing up, we went to school, came back, we didn't have many of those things.
No.
So I think that maybe our parents they didn't have many other options, I think. I mean, I'm not making excuses, but that's also a factor. I feel like now there's so many other things that we can use, privileges that we can deny our children to drive the message home.
Yeah. When you think about tools that were available to our parents, the tools that were available to them and still available to those of us still in Nigeria is the tools are our cultures and traditions. Because we are told that culturally a child is not supposed to speak back at her parents. Traditionally, when an adult is speaking to you, you don't answer back. And if you answer back, you get slapped because you are now showing signs that you're going to be a useless child.
Are those even tools or are those justifications?
They're just
because that was what they used to back up there.
Yeah, the justification is culture and whatever. But in order to bring on board your culture and make it work for you, you need to be seen as doing something. It is not our culture to just watch a child run across the road. I remember in my days, I dared not go to school and answer back or speak back at my teacher. I did not, because the teacher will beat you, drag you all home, report you to your parents. In my own case, they will report me to my grandmother. And when they reported me to my grandmother, that one felt embarrassed and says, "Oh my God, you went down and embarrassed me. So who did you tell them taught you that one?" And then she will call our relatives and say, "This is what Chika did at school. Oh, she's embarrassed also." Everybody will use me as a football. And then after that, I was banned from playing with other children because I was a bad person. And then after a while, I will have my talking to and all of that, and it worked. But I have to give it to my grandmother. She was quite good in the way she disciplined us, because I was a child that had big mouth and nothing made any sense. I could just open my mouth and say anything. And then she would just sit me down, ask me why I did what I did, explain to me the embarrassment I had caused her and the family, and why I should not have behaved that way. And then she will impose her sanctions, things I was not allowed to do. And then it may be that when we come back from school, other children were playing in the yard, I was not allowed to. I had to go and sit inside and read my book. And that was it.
So you see, that talking to as a method is very, in my opinion, is very effective. I worry that once you start using beating as your main and sole method of disciplining your child, it can spiral out of control.
Oh, yeah.
And so I understand why the law here is very clear on this. We're calling it's called, we don't want to use physical chastisement. That's a big word. We're calling it beating because really, that's really what it is. And
exactly.
For our audience, we don't want
we need to break it down. I don't want to use to our level.
Yeah. So for it's beating. So I encourage, I would encourage parents to explore other ways of disciplining their children. And like I said, the reason for this session today is because we're losing so many of our children to the foster care system. And so that is why we're doing this.
Yeah. I think as well that, not beating our children is something that is alien to our culture. And especially those of us who were not raised in this country, who did not go to school here, who did not have the privilege to be like other children who grew up here, and they know what the score is. So I think as well, especially with Jajakba group, because they are losing their children
fast.
It's important that we have like seminars, they attend seminars. And it may well be that, we need to go through our welfare groups in the community to make sure that there is a contact point for anybody who has just arrived and needs to know what happens about children. Because when the children go to school, the teachers will observe them. There are rules of observation for children, so that when they react in a certain way, they may then have to report to social services and the police and all of that. We need to be able to define what a physical chastisement means. Beating. We need to explain it. You may just say, "Oh, I just touched her wrist to stop her from falling into the fire." We are not supposed to touch her wrist. We were supposed to talk to her about it and discuss it. You were supposed to stop her. So in my younger days, when I did mass communication, I had the privilege of learning about forced and self-discipline. Forced discipline is where you then start beating up a child, kicking a child, cursing her. You see, you will never amount to anything. You're useless. You're as hopeless as your father, and all of that. You're breaking down this child. And when you do that, it impacts on their confidence. So when they go out and they meet other people, it's difficult for them to function because they're afraid that they may be beaten. They can't say their minds. They don't engage. They don't make eye contacts and all of that. And then that way, they build a defense against that sort of
resistance.
The resistance. So as far as they're concerned, okay, I can do this, but the worst mom can do is shout at me or beat me up. And then that becomes a pattern. You can't stop them. However, if you go on the other side, which is self-discipline, you sit down with the child, you have a conversation, tell them how they have made you feel. There was something that my daughter says to her children: "You've made me really sad." And whenever she said that, everybody would be trying to make her happy. And mommy, what is it? Can I make you happy? Was it this person? Was it that person? So when you have that conversation and you have heart to heart with your child, and your child knows that you didn't feel happy about what had happened, it is that point that you will say, in order to demonstrate the impact or the strength of what they have done, from this moment on, I want you to go to your room and think about this. I'm going to take your phone. I'm going to take this. No telephones, no TV. Just go into your room, and then maybe by weekend we'll talk about it. I'll give you back your phone. It gives the child the opportunity to think through what happened and then see the impact of what they have done, the dangers and all of that. And without phone, knowing these children,
they will go crazy.
Yeah, they love their toys, they love their phones, they love the gadgets, they will go crazy, and they don't want to go crazy, so they want to make mommy happy. They will understand better.
I think also, Jenny, following on from what you've just said, out here, because it's just the parents trying to juggle everything, and it's really tough.
I know.
Many of us parents, single parents, the mom and dad together, everybody's so busy. And a lot of us just don't have, we think we don't make the time, actually. Let me put it that way. We don't actually make the time when it comes to this method of disciplining, what you just mentioned, sitting down, talking to the child. So the default thing is smacking.
Yeah.
So it's also trying to retrain ourselves and trying to stop ourselves. And also, this beating, also, a lot of it comes from trying to control. You want to explain to this child, I'm the mother or I'm the dad.
I'm in charge.
I'm in charge. So, it goes deeper than just, impulsive, just hitting. So I think that if I say this to my clients, I would benefit even from a parenting course, even with a child that's 20 years old.
Yeah.
I feel like, there's so many courses out there that can help us better parent.
Yeah.
And our people, sometimes we just don't like anybody to tell us. We feel that we know it. I've had somebody tell me, well, I had 5 other children and I beat each of them. And I'm like, but it may be the last one. You may be the last one. And the last one may be the one that will go to school and, make disclosure. So I think it's just awareness, talking about it, and people understanding that, one, social services are involved and physical child. And if they find marks, that's even worse. It's the going downhill from there.
And another thing I think works is that if you find yourself in that position where you've lost it and you hit a child, you need to sit down with the child and engage, apologize, and say, look, I'm sorry that I lost it and all of that, but this was what happened and all of that. Let's work on it and make sure that when you make promises not to do it again, that you don't do it again. Yeah. And if you feel that you can't resist doing it, look for parenting classes, look for anger management classes. They will help you to manage anger and then know how to respond when a child does something. I believe that grounding children works, but you can only ground a child who had been under your control, sort of. Because if you have no control over your children, and you can't tell them to go into their rooms because they will say no. And there's nothing you can do. Some of them would throw things at you. And some of the children, unfortunately, are autistic.
Yes, of course.
That's also another thing. Yes. And all of that. If your child is presenting with such behavioral issues, go on a training. And the beauty of it is that if you go on YouTube, you will find,
Jenny, the thing is, you're saying go on a training. The first thing I even want to say is, if your child is presenting with those things, try and get a diagnosis.
Yes.
Because I've seen, and I've heard so many stories where people have children who are clearly exhibiting signs. We're not professionals or medical experts, but you see a child that's very hyperactive all the time, 24/7.
Yeah.
And you just want to say, oh, he's just an active child. No, there might be something else going on.
Yeah.
And then when that child does something, you get angry and you then beat the child. So,
and you think that beating him will stop him from doing that?
It will stop him.
No.
It doesn't. It just makes things even worse.
He builds a resistance to the beating. So I remember when we were little that some people would immediately they've done something wrong and their parents called them. They showed their hands to be beaten.
So ready, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So it's a lot, this one about this hyperactive children, ADHD, all these things, autism, mild autism, all these sorts of things that we didn't know about. Well, I didn't know about. I don't know about you. I didn't know about these things.
I never knew about
I didn't know about these things growing up.
Yeah.
It's only from my job that I've now seen this thing.
That child is so like reckless and they control him.
No, the rascally.
Restrain him.
Yeah.
Restrain him, this child, and you beat him even.
Yeah.
And when
and that's it, you're making, and then you're making the condition even worse.
Exactly.
So it's a lot. It's a lot to, but my whole thing is I'm just trying to do my own little bit. If I can save one child, one African child, one Nigerian child from foster care, that is what I am doing this for, because the numbers are getting astonishing.
Yeah. And when you say save a Nigerian child, the Nigerian parent must also work towards saving their children. I had a situation once where a parent said to a child, if you do this again, this is what's going to happen to you. So they showed the child a video of somebody who stole in Nigeria, and they beat the child and put tire over the child. So that distressed and traumatized the child. They were about to go to Nigeria and he refused to go with his parents because he said that they may do the same thing to him. So when he got into school, the teacher was asking what was happening and all of that. And then he told him what happened. When the police arrested the parent, they then went through, because that's another thing you need to immediately get hold of your phone.
Yeah.
So when they got the phone, they went into the WhatsApp and they saw such scary things and all of that. And apparently they've been sharing them with the children and they watch them on Niger or whatever magic and all of that. So it's something that we need to learn. It is not done. Beating a child is not the solution. It causes more problems. I've had cases where the children were, the teachers called the social services and the police got involved and all of that, purely because they were asking children questions and they couldn't answer the question and they would not engage eyeball to eyeball. And they felt that there must be something happening at home. And then when they sent in the therapists, the expert, they started talking to the children, they got a lot of information about what was happening at home. So when the parents stand up, they had them arrested and they were like, we never did this. I said, look, if they allege something that is similar to what had happened, admit it.
Yeah.
And just say that you didn't know that it was wrong. You thought you were helping. That's why when you go to a psychologist, when they're doing care proceedings, they want to know about your history.
Yes,
they want to know about how you were brought up, because it may actually have impact on how you are
your parenting.
Your parenting.
Yeah.
So if you feel that you were parented in a harmful way, when comparing what happens back home and what happens here, then be open to support. Go and get a help on how to avoid those things, because we want to raise our children. We want to be there for the children. We don't want other people raising our children. But if we don't learn, somebody will definitely.
A stranger will.
A stranger. And from my experience, what they learn in care is quite different from what we teach them at home. It's very important to us that our children have at least a little idea of our culture and traditions, but that's not going to be discussed in care.
No.
And then when they become older and they come home different people altogether, and that's quite dangerous.
Okay, so there's so many support groups. I think talking about parenting courses, because I've noticed that when I raise that with people, I don't want to say clients because it's not just clients, even friends. When you mention parenting courses, they get offended because they think you're trying to tell them, what they already know, right? But I would encourage people to once in a while refresh your memory and do parenting courses,
especially when you have young children.
When you have of course, when you have young children, you refresh your memory, because that way, if the laws have changed, because laws continue to change, or definitions get broadened and you don't know, how do you know? How do you know? And there's support groups out there. I know there's Afruka, there's support groups that do parenting courses.
And the funny thing as well is that some of these parenting classes are free.
Of
But
course,
when
they're
you
online.
invite our people and say, look, you need to go on it because there's a lot to be learned. They say, oh, you can't tell me how to raise my child. Am I not behaving properly? Did my mother go to any parenting classes?
But then those same people, they go to courses when the children are removed and put in foster care.
Exactly.
So why are we even? Why don't you? It's late.
Yeah.
Or at that point, you're crying and now admitting. But the children have already been removed.
Exactly.
So it's trying to prevent even.
And the longer they stay in care, the more difficult it is to bring them out.
It's trying to just prevent social services even knowing your name.
Yeah.
Because once they know your name, and you keep popping up, that's it.
And by general convention, a child who has been subject to physical chastisement or beating, shouting, screaming, bullying, and intimidating ends up being the same. And if you want to live in a functional, safe society, you want to make sure that your child is not one of those that will go and bully other children, beat them up, and then they will stab them. So it's it is very, very important that we draw the lines. Even no matter how angry we are, if you're too angry and you can't deal with this, say to the child, please go upstairs.
Yeah.
Can I ask you to go upstairs, please?
Self-control.
I know it's not the way we speak, it's not the way we do things, but if some people did it and they work for them, why can't you learn? Because you don't want to be in this country and, with your brains at home. You need to be
of course. And Jenny, I know that before we started this session, we were talking about how we speak and how we talk very loudly. We're very animated. I talk with my hands. I talk with how we... And it's very important. And you kind of mentioned, family members who, reprimand parents like, please don't shout at me. Yeah. So
don't shout at me.
Yeah, don't shout at me. So it's very important because when we talk about...
Why are you shouting?
Yeah, when we talk about physical chastisement, we tend to just think about beating. But obviously that's the most obvious one, and that's the one that quickly lands the children in care very fast. But there's also this thing about how we speak and how, when we're talking to children, we talk to them as if they're adults and we're shouting and we're screaming. I think it's all about self-control. And it's very difficult because if that's how you were raised and that's what you're used to, you continue to, but we can't use that as an excuse. We have to parent better.
No, you see, the thing is that if you're continuing to go back to how you were raised, in the days of our grandparents, they didn't wear the sort of clothes we are wearing.
So why are we? Yeah. So you can't.
They now realize that those clothes, the ones we used to wear in the past, are no longer right. They have changed. So if they could change little things like that, why can't you change? And especially why you want to while you live here. I recall a child, his mother threatened him with something, and he turned around and said, "Mom, you're racist. You know that." And his mom was like, "What?" He says, "You're racist, and you're working in the civil service and everything. You're talking about equal opportunities. Do your employers know that you're racist? If your cultures and traditions are so good and better, why are you being a hypocrite and living here?
Why don't you go and live here?
Sending me to Oxford, where I only have contact with English people, white people. So why did you do that? You're just being racist, and somebody needs to report you."
Oh
yeah.
So to round this up, Jenny, back to this my question and back to this topic. To beat or not to beat in the UK, because remember we're here.
Yep.
So we're talking about life here for this particular episode. To beat or not to beat, and why?
Yeah. Bottom line, not to beat.
Okay.
Do in Rome as the Romans do. Beating in this country is classified as violence. It's physical chastisement, and children exposed to that sort of behavior end up not being very confident children. They become violent, they become aggressive because they believe that these are acceptable behaviors. If you let that child out on the street and they hit a child that is not used to that sort of behavior, it's a criminal offense. So my bottom line is, don't beat your child. If you're so angry that you can't resist being angry, and the only way you respond to being angry and disciplining a child is beating the child, then please seek professional advice. Go for counseling support. Go for family parenting classes. if you don't want to tell me that you're having challenges because you can't control your anger, please go on YouTube, Google parenting classes, can I beat my child, and all of that. They will tell you what to do and what not to do, and you can learn from that. And the one that frightens the hell out of me is dad has beaten a child, and the child runs to mom to say, dad beat me, dad hit me. And then instead of consoling the child and saying to dad, don't do it, that's wrong. I'm sorry that this happened, darling. Daddy wanted to do this. That you also beat up the child and shout at this child. This child will lose confidence. So it's important. The bottom line is not to beat. Yeah?
And the thing is, we're not even trying to say we're not experts in parenting. That's not the issue. The issue is we're talking about it from a family law perspective. We don't want to see you as clients. We don't want to see you as clients, and that's why we're doing this segment.
And basically, what Chinaza said is very important here, because if you beat your child, the consequences are you arrive at your school to pick up your child. The child has made a disclosure. The school will call the police. You'll be arrested. Your phones are taken away from you. Your wife, your husband will be taken to different places and interviewed differently. Ask the same question, and you will give different answers. Then you kickstart the process of care proceedings. And during this period, it is quite intensive and incisive, because they will go into everything that makes you a human being, and the way you live in this country, the way you lived abroad before you came here, and what brought you to the court. By the time they finish doing it, if you're not making admissions and saying, yes, I may have done that, but I didn't realize that it was wrong, how can you help me not to do that again? Then they will take the child, because they classify that as lack of insight. You're not making admissions. You're not agreeing that what you did was wrong. So you will do it again. And what happens? They take your child. That child is placed with a stranger called a foster carer.
Depending on the child's age, the child is young, the child is adopted.
And if the child is under 5, if the child is under 5, the child is adopted. So this is a lot of issue, and we need to learn. The important thing is, don't let the social services into your home.
Like I said, don't let them know your name.
Yes.
And Jenny, something once they do, that's it. And something I just remembered now as you were talking was, we're talking about the family courts. Remember, because of these allegations, police start investigating their criminal proceedings, and this causes a problem. And that's where there's a conflict between family law and criminal law, because even if you want to admit that you hit your child, you're also worried about the pending criminal case.
Persecution.
Okay, so do I admit that I hit my child, and that means I'm admitting a crime has been committed, and that means that I may end up
to
prison for a few months or whatever.
And when you go to prison for more than 12 months, they're going to put you on the plane.
Right back. So the implications are it's unnecessary. I feel like it's just unnecessary.
We just have to do in Romans. Yeah. Romans 2. We need to learn the language of the culture and traditions of the people who live in that land. Don't be in England and leave your brain in Nigeria. It won't work. It will expose you to trouble. I had a woman who was saying, okay, instead of the child going into care, can you send her to my mother in Nigeria? Your mother can't look after the child. They haven't even assessed your mother in Nigeria. Why should this child be sent off? So the important thing is, don't hit, don't beat, seek advice, seek professional support.
And also don't listen to friends, because I've had people who have said to me, oh, my friend, after he beats his child, well, your friend may be lucky, the child just has not said to anybody.
Exactly.
But your child has gone and said to his friend, Johnny at school. So you can't,
And children, they discuss things with their friends.
Of course.
Oh, if you did that at home, my mom will beat you.
Yeah.
And then John will go and tell his own mother. His own mother will tell the teacher. And the teacher will say, does your mom hit you? What does she do if you do this? And then they will disclose it. You're in trouble.
Yeah. Okay, so it's been a good session. We're going to round it up. So we're saying not to beat. Well, that's that's what we're saying. If you want to beat, that's up to you. But we're saying not to beat. And we've explained the implications from a family law perspective. And also, I guess, criminal law as well.
Criminal law, yeah. If you beat your son or your child, the social services will be involved. The police will be involved. You may be prosecuted. You will be given criminal record. And when you have criminal record, you can't find jobs.
It's a mess.
And if it's a long sentence, you may then have to go back to Nigeria. And also, Jenny, the child will be in the system here.
Yeah, Jenny, even talking about work, also, certain types, so certain jobs, because of that, you can't. Let's say you're qualified as a midwife,
a
nurse,
doctor.
Yeah, you're gonna
A
you lose your
solicitor.
lose. Yeah, you lose your
License.
certificate, your license. So it's just not even. Let's not even. It's not even something we want to even find ourselves in. Okay, so we're gonna round up, guys. We hope that you've gained something or taken away something positive from this session. If you have any questions, please send me private messages. You can come anonymously. You can post anonymously. Please like and share. And also there's support out there. There's so much support. We're lucky that we live in a community where there's support. You just have to Google. Your GPs can help you. The libraries can help you. There's so much support out there. And yeah, seek help if you're struggling rather than, lashing out. Seek professional support and to avoid these children, more and more children going into care.
Exactly.
Jenny, was there something else?
Yeah, no, seeking advice does not make you a weak person or a bad parent or somebody who doesn't understand. It actually makes you a special parent.
Yeah.
Who can work together with their children and get the best out of their children.
Yeah.
We want the best out of our children, and when they go into care, sometimes you must remember the foster carer, although is trained to look after a child and abide by the safe practices here, but they're doing their job. There's so much they can do. And all those things you were trying to preserve, our culture and tradition and everything, will be lost.
Yeah,
so
true.
we need to be extremely cautious. As Chinasa said, seek advice.
Yeah.
Seek advice. Very important.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So until next time. So next episode will be in 2 weeks. Between now and then, like I said, like, share, comment, send me messages. You can find us on the Law Society's website. There are also local solicitors. If you have any issues with social services, I suggest you go to solicitors that understand your culture. It's very important. And yeah, so until next time, I'm sending you peace and love.